Morning Exercise Science. This is an instructional video for how to complete your final assignment. And that was assigned, it's Thursday morning right now as I'm filming this. It was assigned a few hours ago, and it will be due next Tuesday, the 19th at 10 p.m. It is a two-part assignment if you haven't looked at it yet. It involves answering 10 questions, which are cumulative questions, and then doing a short project, very short project. It's not going to take you too long, I would assume. I'm going to go through the steps of what I expect right now, and I'll go through the questions with you as well, just as I would have if we were meeting face-to-face, because these are typically the questions, or at least some of the questions that I give. So when we're looking at these questions, what my expectations are is you to show me your thought process, as always. It's easy just to plug and chug answers into them. I'm not going to give you answers. I might give you little hints as we go through this in the next few minutes. I want to see your comprehension of this material, because this, in my opinion, kind of summarizes what we've learned throughout the year. Obviously, there are a lot of concepts that we learned, but these are some of the major ones. So first question of the 10 questions. How are the muscular, circulatory, and respiratory systems all related to the process of cellular respiration? How would I answer this question? I would write out the formula for cellular respiration. I would explain what cellular respiration is and why it's important, and then I would talk about how those systems either benefit from or support that process, or both. So you can talk about bringing oxygen, and you could talk about getting rid of CO2 using the respiratory system for excretion. Using the respiratory system to bring in oxygen. Again, just some hints. We answered this question already. I put this question on your midterm, so it should not be unfamiliar to you. Next question. List in order from smallest to largest the levels of organization with examples for each. Now, huge concept. We covered this in the first day of lecture. Levels of organization. What are they? What does it mean? When we look at the human body, we could start as, we're made of atoms just like everything else in the universe, and we end up as this living organism, pieces and parts, in between, smaller to bigger, bigger to smaller, depending on what direction you look at it. Regardless of how you view this as a concept, it is important for us to understand that the human body is made up of smaller things that lead to bigger things, functional tissues, organs, whatnot. And what I want you to be able to do is piece these together. Sure, you can just write a list out for me if that's the easiest thing for you to do. Or you can explain, get a little more philosophical with me, and explain why it's important to understand that calcium as an ion, which would be at the lowest level of organization, is super important for my ability to sit here right now for a number of reasons. And that would be just taking one example and kind of carrying it all the way through the levels of organization. We did that in class. We talked about that. We took one single concept that we were discussing, the contraction of a muscle, and go all through the levels of organization. You could talk about the firing of a neuron. You could talk about your heart contracting, your heart beating, all those things. And then you can just go backwards and look and see, okay, what's crucial for that to happen? Well, you have to have the tissue layers. What kind of cells are involved with that? What type of organelles are important to make sure that the muscles continue to contract? That's what I want you to look at when you're looking at that question. Again, a list is fine, but I would prefer that you kind of be a little creative with it and dig into that question a little bit more. Next question. Discuss the importance of processes like diffusion, osmosis, active and passive transport. You could throw exocytosis in there if you'd like to. These are all ways for materials to get in and out of cells or cross the cell membrane. That is the beginning of the answer for that question, but I need some more and some examples. Next question. Listen and discuss the basic homeostatic mechanisms performed by the skin. Just looking at that skin chapter. And again, all these answers and information are in the notes on Google Classroom. I have been posting notes all year. Since August. I know some of you probably have not been on or did not go into Google Classroom until we were ordered to stay at home in March, which is fine, but all those notes are posted and uploaded to Google Classroom, and they're in sequence. Obviously, you'll have to go back to look for them if you need them. So just look at the skin chapter, figure out what the skin does for you. List 3. Next question. List and describe functions of the skeletal system. 3. Again, these are more plug and chug questions. Not going to involve a great amount of creativity to answer, but do whatever you want to if you want to go off on on a tangent and talk about how the skeletal system influences other systems and why that's important homeostatically, go for it. Go for it. I encourage that. Compare and contrast the nervous and endocrine systems. This is a tougher question. You have to look at these two systems, and at a basic level, what do they do? How are they similar? How are they different? It's not a long answer, but you need to understand the question. And if you don't, obviously, I'm available. I'll be available tomorrow to answer any questions for you via Meet and obviously email all throughout the weekend, Monday and Tuesday. All right, next question. Give me a moment here. Question number 7, describe the relationship between the concepts of dynamic equilibrium and homeostasis. That's chapter 1 as well. Homeostasis is the number 1 concept we have discussed this year. And yes, do we mention it every day? No. But do we? Yes. We're always talking about homeostatic functions, physiology. So what is dynamic equilibrium? What's homeostasis? Homeostasis, I would attack that first. Describe it. Give me an example if you want to. Body temperature, blood pressure, proper calcium levels, calcium serum levels in the bloodstream so muscle contraction works properly. And then talk about dynamic equilibrium. What does that mean? Those are two words together that don't make sense. They contradict each other. They're an oxymoron, but they're very applicable when we talk about homeostasis. Dynamic means a change. Equilibrium obviously means to stay the same. Why is that important relative to homeostasis? And I talked about limits when we discussed that in class way back in August, and probably again for the midterm as well. In detail, describe four functions of blood. Just go to the blood chapter. Talk about what the blood does for you. Link it to whatever you want to as far as systems go, or just keep it within the context of the blood itself. Discuss in detail the physiology of the capillaries. I think I've stressed this enough over the last few chapters, why capillaries are so important. Obviously, they are the mechanism by which the body can exchange materials. And by exchanging materials, we're able to nourish the cells, take away their wastes, and that's why capillaries are so crucial. They're different from veins and arteries in that way. So talk about the mechanisms by which the capillaries are able to exchange materials with the cells and the tissues. Discuss the cell's need for oxygen as part of your answer. Discuss the production of carbon dioxide, origin and ultimate excretion. This is the last chapter, and this is also related to cellular respiration. So I think you guys will be fine answering that one. Again, if you have any questions, pop in tomorrow, or obviously you can ask me at any point. I don't care how silly you think the question might be, or if it's just one little thing that you want to do to make sure that your answers are almost perfect. Ask me. Send me an email. I'll give you an answer. I might not give you the answer, but I'll give you an answer on how to answer the question. All right, second part of the midterm, or the final. It's a project, and I was trying to find something to do that was a little bit different, something that's going to get you ready for PathoPhys next year, because these are the kind of projects that we do, and this will be a good kickoff for that. So I'm going to ask you to pick a muscle. Pick any muscle. And what you're going to do is you're going to be coaching this muscle, or you're going to you're going to embody this muscle. You're going to be this muscle. This muscle's going for an interview for a job. And you can be creative and funny with this if you want to. It doesn't matter to me, or you can just be straightforward with it. But basically what I want you to do is discuss that single muscle and what it can do. Again, resume for it, a description. So 6 slides I have here. The first slide, just give me a title page and the muscle name, and if there's a nickname for the muscle. If you pick trapezius, people call those traps, and obviously there's nicknames for other muscles as well. But if there's not a nickname, don't worry about it. And if there is, don't worry about it either if you don't feel like thinking about it. So don't worry about that. Just give me the muscle's name. Second slide, description of the muscle's origin, insertion, and action. Be very specific here. And when I say being very specific, that means don't just tell me the origin's the scapula, or don't just tell me the origin's vertebrae. What vertebrae? What part of the vertebrae? Is it spinous process, transverse process, that type of thing. So make sure that you're very specific with those, because we did learn those things this year, and I want you to be able to speak that language you're going to need to moving forward. So make sure that you do that, and I think you're well prepared to do that. When you talk about actions, don't just say it moves my arm. Tell me specifically what it does to the arm. Does it flex it? Does it adduct it? Does it abduct it? Does it externally, internally rotate it? Does it do a number of different things? Because some muscles don't just do one specific action. All right, next one. Describe some muscles that help you out. Right? What are some of your friends that work with you? What are the synergists? What are muscles that perform similar actions located in similar parts of the body? Just a list here is fine. And if there's an antagonist, which there should be, list the antagonist as well. Which one has the opposite action? What moves it back to the place where it was before you moved it there? So think about it that way. Next slide, description of the nervous, innervation and muscles arterial supply. So we did a lot on innervation. We went through 4 sections of a chapter 7, where we talked about innervation. We joked around because some muscles seem to have, one nerve seemed to innervate 50 different muscles. Figure out what muscle, obviously figure out what nerves innervate that muscle. What is the nervous control? What is the motor control for that muscle? Be able to explain that. The myotome is another way you can research that when you're doing it. And then the arterial supply. That we didn't discuss too much. We did, but we didn't. I was not, unfortunately, we weren't in class together. We were talking about arteries and talking about their connection to the muscles, supplying the muscles with blood supply. You're going to have to do a little digging there. It's not difficult. Every muscle will have one. And if you just simply type that in a search, it'll probably tell you specifically, muscle A is supplied with blood by arteries or artery this one, and it's pretty simple. So just make sure you look that up. Slide number 5, describe a common injury to this muscle. Is this a muscle that's typically strained? Is it prone to avulsions? Those type of things. So look up for injuries to this muscle, find 1, find 2, and discuss it in just a little bit of time. A little bit of detail, rather, not time. And provide a short training regimen to isolate and strengthen this muscle. Obviously, there's not too many muscles that you can specifically zero in on. You're going to be there with its synergists as well. But find something that you would do to work out this muscle. And so, just to kind of clarify before I sign off on this, I don't need you, as you're doing this, this doesn't have to be in a specific format. It doesn't have to be Google Slides. It doesn't have to be Prezi. If you're more comfortable putting it on note cards and taking pictures and sending it to me, I'm fine with that too. Don't spend a tremendous amount of time trying to figure out the technology if you're not familiar with using Google Slides or some of those other presentations. Do whatever's easiest for you. If you have to write it out or just type it out for me, just say slide 1, this is what I would type, and just send it to me as a Word document or as a Google document. I'm fine with that as well. So don't spend a lot of time trying to figure out how to do this and make it flashy. If you want to make it flashy, go for it. It's not going to affect your grade one way or the other. I just need the information and need to know that you understand the muscle that you've chosen. Have a good day.